What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Fire King Kozmo deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Gloomba. And this deck is an extremely spicy deck that makes great use of Ancient Fairy Dragon that we just got off the list. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. And definitely give Gloomba some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Kozmo Dark Destroyer. This card is one of the best cards in the entire deck, and our main boss monster that we're summoning out all the time. And as the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you can target one monster on the field and destroy it, and it cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects, which is an insane effect. Now, all of your Kozmo ships actually share a common effect. If this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard to be able to special summon out another Kozmo monster that's one level lower than the monster that was destroyed. For example, your copy of Dark Destroyer has the ability that you can special summon a level 7 or lower Kozmo monster from your deck, which is a great effect to be able to just basically float into other Kozmo cards because all of the ships float, which is really neat. We then play a single copy of Kozmo Forerunner. I feel like 1 is totally fine for this deck. It's a really good card to step down from your copy of Dark Destroyer into this card, and it has a great effect that it cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects, and during your standby phase, gain 1,000 life points, which is a really good effect. We then play a single copy of Landwalker. I really am liking Landwalker in testing, and I'm just playing a single copy of it in this particular build, that if a Kozmo card you control would be destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect, you can destroy one other Kozmo card that you control instead, which is a really neat effect to be able to use with this card to get the exact card you want to be destroyed. We then play 2 copies of Kozmo Sliprider. Sliprider is a good 2-of that actually pops spells and traps on special summon, which is a really good effect. We then play a single copy of Delta Shuttle. Delta Shuttle is actually a part of the combo for this deck because it helps you send your copy of Strawman to the graveyard, because once per turn, you can send a Kozmo monster from your deck to the graveyard, then target one face-up monster on the field and it loses attack and events equal to the sent monster's level times 100, which is a great effect. You can send a bunch of different cards from your deck to the graveyard depending on the situation, but usually I either send Strawman or Sword Trooper depending on the situation to the graveyard, which is just a really good effect. We then play 2 copies of Dark Lady. Dark Lady is really good in this deck as a 2-of. This card is a monster negate, which is insane because quick effect, you can banish this card to be able to special summon a level 6 or higher Kozmo monster from your hand, which all of your pilots actually share that ability, that you can quick effect banish them and then special summon a monster that's higher, one level higher than them or higher than that, which is really good. And it basically just tags them out for one of your ships. And this card also has the ability at once per turn, when another monster effect is activated, quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life points and negate the activation if you destroy that monster, which is an absolutely insane effect to be able to use with this card. We then play a single copy of Farm Girl. Farm Girl is just a good 1-of in this particular build. I feel like you only need a single copy of this card, because when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can pay 500 life points to be able to add one Kozmo card from your deck to your hand, which is a pretty good effect, but I feel like 1 is totally fine. We then play 2 copies of Sword Trooper. 2 Sword Trooper is really good in this build. I really like this card in this particular deck because it has the ability once per turn you can pay 1,000 life points, target one Psychic type Kozmo monster in your graveyard and special summon it, which is a really good effect to be able to summon out one of your copies of, say, Strawman to your side of the field so you can go in for your plays. We then play 2 copies of Strawman. Strawman is one of the most powerful cards in this particular build, and I love that about this card. This card is super insane because it has the ability that once per turn, you can pay 500 life points to target one of your banished Kozmo monsters and special summon it, but its effects are negated, also destroyed during the end phase. This card comes in extremely handy because you can use the effect of your Fire King Island to pop one of your ships in your hand, special summon out this card by banishing the ship from the graveyard, and then once you do, you can actually use the effect of Strawman to be able to special summon that ship back that's banished, which gets you a monster on the field, which is insanely powerful, and I love that about Fire King Island in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Kozmo Tin Can. I still love 3 copies of Tin Can. Tin Can is insane for its in-phase effect that during the in-phase, you can pay 500 life points to reveal 3 Kozmo cards with different names from your deck, and your opponent randomly picks one and adds it to your hand and send the rest to the graveyard, which is a great effect to be able to use in this deck. It's also a psychic monster, so you can actually E-Telly it out, which is really neat because all your cards from Farm Girl down are actually psychic level 3 or lower, so you can E-Telly any of them out to your side of the field, which is really nice. We then play 2 copies of Fire King Avatar Garunix, the level 3 version of Garunix. You're playing 2 copies of this card in this particular build to be able to search off your copy of Fire King Island. You never want to see this card in your hand because you want to be able to pop one of your ships in your hand, search this card off your copy of Fire King Island, and then go in for your plays with your Kozmo cards because they were popped by a card effect, which is really nice. We then play 2 copies of Destrudo. Destrudo is just so we can go into Ancient Fairy Dragon, which is really nice in this particular deck to be able to go in for your copy of Ancient Fairy Dragon because it interacts with your field spells and it's really easy to do. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom to round out the monsters. Ash Blossom is just a fantastic hand trap right now to be able to stop your opponent from touching the deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is a definite one-of in this deck to be able to send your copy of Destrudo from your deck to the graveyard or the exact card you need to the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Dragon Shrine. Dragon Shrine is also extremely good in this deck as a one-of to be able to send your copy of Destrudo directly from your deck to the graveyard, essentially playing 4 copies of Destrudo in the deck, which is why I'm only playing 2 copies of it in the main deck because you can get it in the graveyard so easy with Dragon Shrine or Foolish Burial. We then play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness is just really insane in the deck. I believe we were playing 11 targets for Allure of Darkness, and this card just comes in extremely handy to help you draw 2 and just be able to go in for all sorts of insane plays with those 2 cards that you actually draw, and it's not even that big of a deal to banish your Kozmo cards because it's really easy to get them back. We then play 3 copies of Emergency Teleport. E-Telly is just so good in this deck because it's basically a free summon from deck for any of your level 3 or lower pilots, which is really cool. We then play 3 copies of Fire King Island. Fire King Island is insane in this deck. This card is so good and actually just broken in this deck. It has the ability of, if this face-up card in the field spell zone is sent to the graveyard or banished, destroy all monsters that you control, which will make all of your ships float, which is really cool. It also has the ability that you can once per turn activate one of these effects that during your main phase is the only effect you're ever going to activate. During your main phase, you can destroy 1 monster in your hand or that you control, and if you do, add a Fire King monster from your deck to your hand. Now that's a really good effect to be able to pop one of the ships in your hand to be able to search out your copy of Garunix directly from your deck to be able to get one of your ship's effects to go off to float into another card because they were destroyed by a card effect, which is super good in this deck to be able to use to be able to let one of your ships float into another ship. We then play 3 copies of Kozmo Town. Kozmo Town is really good to work with your copy of Ancient Fairy Dragon, and it's just really good overall in the deck because once per turn, you can target one of your banished Kozmo monsters and return it back to the hand, and if you do, lose life points equal to that monster's original level times 100, which is a great effect to be able to combo with your copy of Allure of Darkness because none of your ships that are banished are ever truly gone as long as they're banished face up. And once per turn, you can reveal any number of Kozmo monsters in your hand, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw the equal number of cards that you shuffled into the deck. And if this card in the field spell zone is destroyed by card effect, you can add a Kozmo card from your deck to your hand, which is a really insane effect. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just playing a single trap in this build. We're just playing a single copy of Kozmojo. Kozmojo is just a good one-of spot removing card. He's lets you target a Kozmo monster you control, destroy it, and if you do, banish 1 card that your opponent controls or in their graveyard, which is a really neat effect, but I feel like 1 is totally fine in the deck. I did consider actually cutting this card altogether in this particular build for another copy of Forerunner, but it is up to you guys if you want to do that. But it's still a really good one-of to be able to destroy one of your opponent's cards or get rid of or banish one of your opponent's cards, excuse me, to be able that can't usually be destroyed. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with a single copy of Ancient Fairy Dragon, which we just got off the list, which is super cool, just recently off the most recent list, which is absolutely insane. This card is still broken, even though they changed the effect just a little bit, but it's still really good. Because during your main phase, you can special summon a level 4 lower monster from your hand, but you cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect. And during your main phase, you can destroy as many cards in the field spell zone as possible, minimum 1, and if you do, gain 1,000 life points. Then you can add a field spell with a different name than the destroyed cards from your deck to your hand, but you can only use each effect of this card once per turn, which is an insane effect that you can destroy Fire King Island, let all of your ships float, or if you need to get to Fire King Island, you can activate Kozmo Town, then summon out this card, destroy Kozmo Town, search Fire King Island from deck to hand, and also gain 1,000 life points, which is really good, and get a search of a Kozmo card since your copy of your Kozmo Town was destroyed. It's best to be able to use this card with your copy of Kozmo Town on field so you can get to Fire King Island even faster, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Black Rose. Black Rose is just easy to make in this deck with your copy of Destruda, and it's really good to be able to board wipe the field. We play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code's a good one-of to be able to pop multiple cards on the field. It's one of the best link monsters in the entire game. One copy of Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. Super easy to make in this deck, especially with the amount of high-level monsters we have. And this card is really good because it does have that banish one card from the field if it destroys a monster by battle, which is absolutely crazy. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn. Unicorn's really good to be able to spin stuff on the field. One copy of Nightmare Phoenix to pop spells and traps. One copy of IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena is in the deck so that you can make Unicorn during the opponent's turn. One copy of Link Rebo to round out the Link monsters because we do play Tin Can in the deck. And it's just really good with your copy of Tin Can just in case you need to be able to prevent yourself from being OTK'd. We then play a single copy of Cyber Dragon Nova and a single copy of Cyber Dragon Infinity. These are in the deck because you can make them with Slip Rider, which is really nice, or even Shuttle because Shuttle is a machine monster, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Break Sword just in case you need to pop one card on your field and a card on your opponent's field, which all your ships float, so you can pop one of your ships and then be able to make them float, which is really nice. One copy of Levenair the Sea Dragon because you can bring back one of your level 4 or lower monsters with this card's effect, which is super good. One copy of Herald of Pure Light. Herald of Pure Light is a good one-of in the deck. I really like this card as a one-of in this particular build because you make it with 2 copies of Strawman. It's a super spicy tech card that lets you detach a material from this card and then target one monster in your graveyard and add to your hand, and then shuffle one card from your hand into the deck, which will help you recover some of your cards, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Downer Magician and a single copy of Zeus. Zeus is really good to be able to board wipe the field, and we just play Downer because you can make it on top of your copy of Levenair or your copy of your Phantom Knight of Breaksword, which is really nice. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Fire King Kozmo, you definitely should give the deck a try. It's really nice instead of playing the trap version of the deck because it helps you swarm the field so much faster than the trap version, because the trap version basically just summons out Dark Destroyer and goes in for game with all the trap cards and just controls the board, where this build just swarms and swarms and swarms. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.